Is there a culture of abuse by Metro officers at local resorts? One man who lost his job at the Hard Rock after reporting allegations of police misconduct says the cops are too cozy with hotel security. Another claims an officer roughed him up at the Las Vegas club. What does the videotape show? And why do officials say a sergeant failed to report the incident to Internal Affairs? We'll ask our guests next on Face to Face. Welcome to Face to Face. I'm John Ralston. A Metro officer and his sergeant are on leave pending completion of an Internal Affairs investigation into the latest incident of alleged police misconduct at a local hotel. This time it's the Las Vegas club, where in November a man was taken into custody by security and turned over to Metro. His attorney, Barry Levinson, joins us. Also with us today, Richard Segerblum, who represents a man hailed by the state as a whistleblower and fired by his employer, the Hard Rock. Metro declined our invitation to appear, saying pending litigation prevented them from being here. Gentlemen, thanks for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Levinson, let's talk about your case first.
Sure.
Franky Davis. Go over the facts with us and start with why he was taken into custody by security in the first place, and then what happened after that.
Essentially, he was loitering. Okay, he was loitering. He was trying to stay out of the cold, and he was up in a stairwell, just sitting there. And the security officers went upstairs, found that he was, loitering, sitting there, and they asked him.
He shouldn't have been there.
He shouldn't have been there. No. But he was trying to get out of the cold. He was there, okay? He fully cooperated with them. They said that they were just going to 86 him, which means they were just going to take him in, take his picture, and let him go. Well, while they were taking him up to the security booth, one of the security guards allegedly punched him in the face, and that actually got him going. Then, for anybody who's seen the videotape, they can see that they were roughing him up a bit in the...
We're going to put the videotape up in a moment. The officer actually punching him is not on the videotape?
No.
Right.
No, the security officer punching him is not on the videotape.
So that is just an allegation. That cannot be proven.
That is an allegation, can't be proven at this time. However, if you watch the videotape, you'll see, they roughed him up a bit. Words were,
we have the video up now, just so you know.
They were exchanged, okay? And then also, what's not on the videotape, curiously, is the fact when the Metropolitan police officer handcuffs him, they actually take him out of that booth and throw him against the wall.
So he told you?
Not only did he tell me, we have proof of that.
How do you have proof of that?
Because the Metropolitan Police Department is investigating this, and we have proof. We've actually got pictures of the holes in the wall where he was thrown.
Well, they could say that something else made those holes. Obviously, anyone witnessed this by any chance that's willing to come forward?
The security guard witnessed it.
Did he sign an affidavit saying that
it's in the security guard report?
It is in the security.
Yes, it sure is.
Security guard report. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the injuries that your client sustained. Very serious injuries. They almost broke his neck.
No, broken vertebrae. He's in a halo. He's been in a halo for since the incident.
Explain what a halo is.
A halo is something to stabilize the neck.
So it's essentially a very thick neck brace.
It's a huge, thick neck brace. You can't move. There's a pad right here, and it's a halo, essentially. And there's holes drilled into your head, so you can't move them.
He's immobilized.
He's immobilized.
So let's talk a little bit about how you got involved in this case and how Metro has handled it from your point of view.
I got involved. He called my office, and it was funny because not that many attorneys wanted to even have anything to do with this case.
Why?
I have no idea. But we immediately went down to the hospital, interviewed him, and we signed him up.
Now, he told you he had called a bunch of attorneys beforehand? That's interesting.
Yeah.
What did he say they told him?
He said they weren't interested.
Why?
He didn't tell me.
Because it has to do with a casino?
I have no idea. Maybe they wanted to make a quick buck on an auto accident. I have no idea. But, I jumped at the chance.
Why'd you jump at the chance?
Because I felt that, I felt there was some sort of abuse by Metro here.
What about Metro's handling of this? What do you think?
So far, I think they're doing a good job. But no charges have been filed against Officer Miller or his superior yet. But I know they're still investigating.
And let's talk about what the possible penalties are. I mean, the punishment for something like this, if it's determined to be gross, misuse of force, they could be fired right away, correct?
Correct. And not only that, I mean, we clearly have a battery on the tape. My client's handcuffed, and you can see the officer punching him in the face after he already had his neck broke.
We saw that on the videotape a couple of minutes ago. Is there any possible explanation for why that would have happened?
Maybe he was mouthing off, but that still does not, that's still, it's excessive force. I mean, just because somebody's mouthing off doesn't mean you have the right to punch him in the face.
You know, I played devil's advocate here with you for a second. You know, the most celebrated videotape beating in history, of course, is Rodney King.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people who said, oh, you only saw a little bit of that videotape. You see the whole incident develop. Maybe it's not as bad as it first looked. Do you think there's any possibility
you can watch the whole
here?
videotape, and you'll see that there's parts obviously cut out. And you can watch the whole videotape, and you can see that my client was, from the beginning, he was very cooperative, and he wasn't resisting until the police officers started, harassing him.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your case. One more point I wanted to make. Metro, we asked them to be on this show and to talk about both. They said pending litigation, what you'd expect them to say. But let me show you what Undersheriff Wingate said about the allegations that your client is making. He said, these are serious allegations, and we are taking them very seriously. If the allegations prove to be accurate, the officer and the supervisor will face very serious discipline. Now, you mentioned before the break that you think Metro is doing a pretty good job, but that nothing's happened so far. Do you think the investigation has taken too long, not long enough? What's your view on that?
I think it's taken a little too long, but you know what? I know. I mean, to fire somebody is a serious thing. I mean, so they really need to look into this.
You know, most people who are watching here though and don't know all the ins and outs of internal affairs and all those things, they watch that videotape and they say, "Well, wait a second. This guy's punching this guy and he's on the ground, they're handcuffed. How can it be? What are they investigating?"
Yeah. Well, I mean, at very least, they should be charged with battery. At very least. And I expect them to do the right thing. That's why I commend the media for actually, making this an issue. Because without it, I think it would be overlooked.
But you have not filed any court action.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we have.
Talk about the court action.
Well, we filed a federal suit in federal court alleging, everything from Fourth Amendment violations to color of law to conspiracy.
Sounds like a kitchen sink lawsuit. Why wouldn't you wait until the investigation's over to do that?
Because we think we have enough evidence.
You don't even need that.
No, I think we've got plenty of evidence.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about your case, which took place at the Hard Rock, and take us through the facts of your case and what happened to your client.
My case is different. My client worked for surveillance at the Hard Rock. He observed Metro treating a female customer what he felt was inappropriately.
What were they doing?
They were frisking her in a way that male officers don't frisk a female. So he had a videotape of that incident, as he should have. He talked to his supervisor, asked them to look into it. Nothing happened, and after a while, he actually got the videotape to Metro, asking Metro to review this to see if their officers had done anything wrong.
We're playing the tape now, I should tell you. He actually took the videotape physically from the property and took it over to Metro.
Right. He actually had an intermediary, the ACLU person, do it, but he got it to Metro, and the promise was by Metro that they would not tell where they got the tape and report back to the Hard Rock.
Let's talk about, let me stop you for a second here, mister. This is a very key point here because he says his confidentiality was breached. Exactly what does he say Metro promised to do? To
keep the tape confidential. And in turn, they went right back to the Hard Rock and said, look, we have this videotape and something unusual happened here. Of course, the Hard Rock immediately figured out he was the one that gave it to him. And he
so Metro didn't tell him. Metro didn't tell him it was this guy. They just figured it out by obviously who would have had access to the videotape and figured that he gave it to him. Right. But anyway, he was fired. Basically for trying to do the right thing. And our real biggest problem is the fact that then he went to the Gaming Control Board and said, look, I, as a surveillance person, I have an obligation to the hotel, I have an obligation to the citizens of Nevada, and we want you as the monitor of the license to go to the Hard Rock and try to mediate this thing. And they said, basically, we have no involvement in this. If the Hard Rock wants to fire you, even if you did something right, that's their right. Doesn't the Gaming Control Board, though, have a lot of discretion in what they can and can't do? Absolutely. Under the regulations, they can always go in and do something. So the fact that they just took a total hands-off was really upsetting. What did they tell your client he was being fired for? Did they tell him something? Right, for releasing the videotape. For, in other words, taking company property and taking it outside the company? Right. And but let's talk about, I mentioned this, that he has actually been called a whistleblower by the state. Talk about that a little bit. Right. When he filed for unemployment, the unemployment office said, yes, you did something in violation of the corporate policy, but as a citizen of Nevada, you had an obligation to report police brutality, which you did. Isn't there a problem here? I mean, you have essentially if the state, meaning the Gaming Control Board, is not going to do anything about this, that creates kind of a chilling effect, doesn't it, for whistleblowers? That's why whistleblower statutes are passed. Absolutely, because what's the next person in surveillance going to do when they see something wrong? They're going to tell Metro, or they're going to tell the Gaming Control Board, or they're just going to look the other way. I'm going to show you some sound from your client, and then we're going to talk a little bit more about your case when we come back. I want both of you gentlemen, again, to talk about whether you think there might be a systemic problem going on here that Metro or the casinos don't really want us to talk about, but we're going to talk about it here. We'll be back on Face to Face to talk about 2 cases involving Metro and the resorts when Face to Face returns.